Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Funnel Trade. Once in a while I get a question from somebody about the risk of ordering from Amazon versus the rest of the market. And yes, back in the time period of around spring to summer of 2021, there was a lot of Reseal scamming going on Amazon, and it kind of coincided with Time Spiral Remastered. It may have been exacerbated by that, where Watsy took most of the Time Spiral print run and dumped it to Amazon instead of giving it through to card stores through the normal distribution system. That may have just focused more attention upon it. And so what I'm going to do today is just lay out a very basic model to help you understand what the kind of risk is of getting resealed product on Amazon in terms of dollars. And so I will start this by saying I have bought hundreds of boxes from Amazon. I have bought hundreds of boxes that I have opened for singles. And so hundreds of boxes, and I mean well north of 200 boxes that I've opened for singles from Amazon, and I have not found a single one of them to have been tampered with or resealed. Now, you could say, well, Craig, you were just fooled by it. It was such a good resealing, and the cards inside were still convincing, and in which case it's like, well, then that kind of defeats the purpose of taking the risk of resealing and floating them back into the Amazon inventory system. And so I'm skeptical that people are going into boxes, opening one or two packs, replacing a few choice cards with less good cards, and then resealing. I mean, that doesn't make sense compared to the outright replace it all with G.I. Joe cards kind of resealing that you see in some cases. So let's draw up a couple of hypothetical scenarios and talk about how we might think about the risk here. So let's take what we'll call the market base case. Let's just make up a scenario. Let's say you want to buy 100 boxes of something, 100 boxes, and they are $100 each in the market. We're going to write this as $100 per box. And so if you multiply those out, you'll get $10,000 is what you end up spending. And I'll just be very verbose here. $10,000 spend, which means you spent what? $100 per box. And you'll see why I'm rewriting that here in a few minutes. Okay. Easy, okay? All of this, not too hard on the math, count zeros. Okay, let's go over to Amazon, and we're going to pretend for a moment. Let's just say the apocalypse has hit, and, scammers floating resealed boxes through Amazon, and it's just whatever Amazon is doing to try to prevent it, they stop doing. Apparently, they've gotten better at preventing it than they were in 2021, I guess. And let's say that the risk here is a 20% risk of a scam box. So, all right, scam risk. And when that happens, essentially the value of that box is zero. And yes, I know even the G.I. Joe cards left in the box have some kind of value. You could throw them in your fireplace or whatever. But we're going to say you still want to buy 100 boxes. Okay, so you go and you buy 100 boxes on Amazon. And let's say that Amazon's going to give you a 20% discount, right? Because Watsy's always dumping on Amazon. I'll write that as 20 minus 20% price, okay? So what do we end up paying? $80 per box. And that's still times 100 boxes, so we pay $8,000 total. We'll just write that as total, not per. Okay, but we paid $8,000 for 100 boxes, but there's a 20% scam risk. So that means 20% of those 100 boxes are worth zero, and we might as well just throw them in the trash. Now, what it also means is if you're holding these for the long term, you can kind of identify, maybe you're weighing them when you get them, you're examining the wrappers, you're doing shake tests, you're making sure they're not made of Play-Doh, you're making sure the Paul brothers didn't sell them to you, all the other ways you keep yourself from getting scammed. And so we're going to say that you're able to identify them. Now, do I think that in my entire inventory for my business, I have at least one box that's been tampered with? Gosh, at this point, I would say maybe, probably in there somewhere. There's a box that's been tampered with, I guess. I'd be surprised if it was zero, but I don't think it's many because, well, I hope it's not many. So let's move on. 20%. So that means 20 boxes have a value of 0. So we're not going to talk about them anymore, and you're left with 80 boxes. So now what do you have? You have 80 boxes, and you paid $8,000 for them. Okay, so what's your cost per box? Well, it's dollars per box. So it's 8,000 divided by 80 boxes. And I'm going to start right in sideways as I reach the extent of my reach. And that's going to come to $100 per box. You may be a little bit confused here. That's the same number we got here, $100 per box. But what do we have to do to make these numbers match up? We had to say that the scam risk was as high as the discount percentage. And that's the break-even point. That's why I set them equal on the Amazon side. And so if your scam risk is less than the discount that you're getting, it's a good deal. Yeah, you'll get a scam box once in a while. Hopefully, you'll be able to identify it. If you're opening them for singles, you'll definitely be able to identify it. But as long as the risk of getting scammed is any amount lower than the discount on Amazon, you're coming out better by going ahead and buying them, even if occasionally you get a tampered box. And that's the thing to keep in mind. And so that's what I always try to impress upon people is that's the break-even point. And then I kind of go back to my experience having bought hundreds and hundreds of boxes that I've opened and thus been able to personally say, yes, not a single one of those hundreds and hundreds of boxes I've opened for singles was a tampered with box. And so I believe that the actual likelihood of a scam box on Amazon is way less than 1%. Now, how much less? I don't know. We start getting into orders of magnitude there, and it becomes kind of a more difficult conversation. But I think it's very low. So when you're seeing Watsy dump product and it's at 15 and 20 and 30% below the current market base case price, yeah, you absolutely should buy it and don't worry about the scam. I mean, you have to hope that you're able to identify scam boxes when you get them, which is a whole nother question. But as long as you think you can do that, you're way better off just going ahead and buying the discounted dump boxes off of Amazon from Watsy instead of fearing that you might get a scam box and then paying a whole lot more money overall in order to avoid getting scammed one time. Now, this kind of only applies in this special case where we have Amazon, we have Watsy dumping on Amazon, we have Amazon at least doing more than zero to try to keep tampered boxes out of their inventory system. And so if you get into other things like buying from random Joe Blow card store sold and fulfilled by him on Amazon, that's a whole nother thing. Okay. When it's shipped and sold by Amazon, that's Watsy. Now, product that is fulfilled by Amazon all gets mixed around within their fulfillment center. But when it's shipped and sold by Joe Blow Cards, it's at his card store and he sends it from there, or he drop ships it from somewhere else. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure that your discount is at least greater than what you think the scam risk is. And I personally believe the scam risk is well below 1%. So that means that a lot of the times when I see a great price on Amazon and it's a product I'm interested in, I don't worry about buying it. And I still inspect every box when it comes in. I inspect the feel and sound of the plastic, the weight of the box, shake tests, other things that, give you a good feel over time. You examine the seams, how the seams are constructed, make sure there's not a bunch of extra material or the extra material around the seams is correct, things like that. But overall, here are the mathematics of scam risk and discount to make sure that you're still going to be okay. If you think the scam risk on Amazon is astronomically high, comment down below and tell me why, because I just don't see it. Like I said earlier, early 2021, there was some amazing stuff coming out. There was one famous video from Reddit where a guy opened a case of Time Spiral Remastered he got from Amazon, and he showed all the seams and the paper that all looked very good. And then he opened it up, and every pack had been slit open. And, you know, there was some crazy stuff going on at that time. But like I've said, I've opened hundreds of boxes personally since then, and I have not found that I have gotten a bad one yet. Let me know your experience. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade. Join the Patreon.